Welcome back, modelers. So today we are going to look at having your own LED setup for your models. So whether it's sci-fi, aircraft, cars, whatever it may be. So we'll be looking at the different LEDs to buy, the power sources, and how to do the wiring to it. So in the end, you could get something like this Millennium Falcon that I've got the engine set up here. Turn it back on to have the engine powered up. So you can have that there. All right. So first up, power supply. If you wanted to, you could do AC and you never have to worry about replacing batteries. There's some advantages with you don't have to try to fit a battery pack into the unit. So if you want to do that, I've got a connector here that you just have the positive and negative terminal and then a barrel connector that then plugs into the wall. Easy peasy for that. So if that works, you can do that. But if you don't have batteries, you can't go and fly it around. That's no fun. So these are the battery setups. The smallest that I have is this little guy that takes CR2032s, 2 of them, and you have a little on-off switch. But pretty cheap, pretty easy to use, works well. Then you got this that takes 4 AA batteries. So you could use that. Otherwise, I've used this, just standard 9-volt. So with it, the voltage is going to be a little different, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Shouldn't really make a major difference. Here we got 9 volts, so with 4 of these, that should be about 6 volts. And then 6 volts with this guy, 12 volts with this. All right, so we looked at the power sources here. So next up, the LEDs. So for some projects where we might be setting up something with like aircraft fuselage where we need it to be really, really small, you can put in these itty bitty guys. It's just the little diode and that's about it. So limited brightness, but man, you can put this in about anything you want. This one doesn't come with a resistor, which we'll be talking about here in a sec. So that's one thing with it. Moving up in size, I like this type. Let's see, this one I've been using a little bit for an experiment, but kind of mid-sized for it. And so this works really well for just about all the projects. The next size above, we get into this, and quite a bit different in size. So this becomes quite a bit more flexible, and light output is pretty similar. If you really need to, go with the most brightness, yeah, maybe getting into this, but it's debatable. This is the size for my go-to for just about everything. So this is what I've been ordering the most of. So those are 3 different types with it. Now, with it, you do want to get something that has the resistor built into it and just ready to go, just like these, or like this one I've cannibalized. It normally has it, but I took it off because I want to do a little bit of an experiment. We're going to go show you next. So the resistor resists the power that's going to the bulb. If you do not do that, then too much power is going to be going into the bulb, and it's going to be changing it from being a LED bulb to basically a fuse, and it's going to pop pretty fast. So to show you that, I'm going to sacrifice one of these here. Now, I found some of these are not quite as interesting when they get destroyed. Some just cease to work. Some of these, if you don't have it right, you might just not last very long. I don't know, but anyway, make sure you got this on. Okay, so this is what happens when you have certain types of LEDs and you do not have any resistors. Did you miss it? Sorry, a little underwhelming, but yeah. Woo! And that has a burning diaper kind of smell to it. It's very interesting. Anyway, so that's what can happen with it. Some of the other bulbs I've found I've been playing with here, where if it doesn't have the resistor and you put in too much voltage, it just ceases to function. It's not going to work anymore. It kills it, but you don't have anything as cool as what happened with there. So this one is blown, but there really isn't anything super special that has happened to it. Yeah, so whatever. So once you buy the one with the resistor in it, you don't have to worry about everything. These are going to fit just about anything. The ones that I've bought are rated up to 12 volts. So even 12 volt power supply that we got here, any of those power sources that I went through, they're going to work perfectly fine for it. Okay? Now for what I thought was going to be the scary part, wiring these up. Now, very much, it's actually brutally simple. We could get into the theories about like a parallel circuit versus or wiring them in series, but really, you're just going to do it parallel. What that looks like, so I see, I've got all my blacks together, and I would twist them together. And just for sake of easiness in front of you guys, I'm going to just do it with the wire nut. Just to make it easy. When I'm actually lighting up something, I'm going to use a full-on like soldering setup. I'm going to solder them and make them nice and pretty. Heat shrink, all of that, just to make sure it's nice and durable. Not going to run into problems because certain kits, you're not going to be able to get back into it, right? You're going to be glued in, and just imagine after you do all your weathering that you have to take it apart to get to a bulb. Not fun. Okay, so wiring it up here parallel. So I've got all the positives together, linked up with my power source, and I've got all the negatives. And then, there you go. There's my lights. Very easy. From there, it comes down to every build is a little bit different in what you're going to do with all these wires, right? So I have the same power supply in here. Luckily, the Bandai kit has you can buy their kit and everything for it. It's crazy expensive compared to this, about 60 bucks. This 10 bucks I think I've probably would paid because I bought these in bulk, so pretty cheap stuff. So I got the power supply. I can still get in and turn it on and off. And since it's Bandai, I could technically take this thing apart and it wouldn't really matter too much to be able to get into change out the battery. So that's the thought process with this particular setup. But this is technically a test rig that I want to do a couple of things with. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if I have to do some modifications with this. But you have to think about the structure in there. Some of these that you're going to put onto a display, you might have the wire coming out of it and running along, or in a tube that you can do for some aircraft. So then it comes down to just how are you going to run the wires in it. The battery pack inside, you could have the battery pack outside of the unit and put it into a base. So there's a lot of thought that you can go into there, but the theory is really just this, right? You got your power source, and then we're gonna just run all of positive leads and the negative neutral leads here together, right? And that's it. Simple as that. Don't need to daisy chain run in series. In fact, it's going to run into problems because as soon as one bulb breaks, they're all gone. The advantage with running it exactly like this, if one bulb pops, breaks, whatever, all the other ones are going to be there and fine. It's not like your Christmas lights. So you definitely want to run it this way. Much less hassle. It's the way to go. Very simple setup. Okay, so now let's discuss a few applications of what we just went through. So we looked at, methodology and kind of the theory behind making these LED setups. And then from here, we can do all sorts of fun things. So this is the Bandai Star Destroyer kit. I think the 1/5000th or something like that scale. And with you can buy the Bandai lighting kit with it, and it is by far easier to do their lighting kit. Not gonna lie about that, right? Definitely easy. It's made for it and all this, but it might set you back about $60. Now to do this, material wise, I may have spent like $10. So vast difference, right? But there's a lot of things we got to look at, and a lot of things that you got to do. And well, if you don't have a soldering iron, then that's going to be a pretty big, well, not a big investment, but a good investment to get something at least basic and get through there. So yeah, but if you stuck with me long enough with this video, I'm assuming that you're going to dive in and go through this anyway. So having said that, this is how we accomplished it. And what I've done, so I'm going to put this into sections. So this is the top piece. So this is actually going to go like so, where you have that. And so that's what's going to go up there. And it's comprised of these 4 lights. So you put them in there. And then, as you can see, I put all the positive leads together and all the negative leads together, like so. So we did that. And I just took them and then connected it with just one little lead here and here. So in the end, I basically would just have one positive, one negative strand together. So I did that with then all the colors. So you can see the blue lights. I added some extra ones. The original kit, I think, let's see, 1, 3 would be, I think, the original kit is what it calls for. And I did, well, 5. So see if that adds to it a bit. So I have all those 5, so all positives going and combining, basically coming into this one lead, right? And then it's, let's see, here. So then I have the positive and negative for it. Then I've got just the standard white lights that we got going through here, and they're all combining together. So then once I've got all those and put them together, then I'm going to put those 3 bundles together and then tie it into our lead that's going to be the power source. So there's multiple ways that we can do this. I showed you some options for batteries. So if you want to do batteries, near me, probably should have grabbed it, but my Millennium Falcon, the smaller one, I want to be able to kind of lift that off its base and do some things with it. So kind of like the battery approach. But for the Star Destroyer here, twofold. My client wants to have it AC powered, so we're going to be doing that because that's what they want. But when you have the stand that it comes with, and it also has, like the 2 different craft that it's trying, take up into its bay. So you have the mounting, and this comes close to the stand, and it looks pretty slick. And then with that connector, it comes into here, and it's not really a big deal seeing that wire for that particular setup. And then with that, you don't have to worry about changing the batteries ever. I mean, you can leave that thing on for quite a while. some of my battery tests that I've done, left it on for a full 30 hours and everything was fine, right? So if you're doing everything properly, you're not going to have plastic melt or anything with that going on. So, if you want any more details on particular things that I've done with these LEDs, any more examples that you want to see, I should be very close to giving you an update on the Millennium Falcon Perfect grade. Very close to being done. So you'll be able to see that in the next video. See what I've done with the weathering. Show you some more stuff again with how the Bluetooth unit has worked with the batteries and all that. That's going to be coming up next. So stay tuned for that. Make sure that you subscribe and you're set up for notifications. That way it'll pop up and let you know that that's coming. But until then, we'll catch you on the next one.